Hello, welcome to Ars Electronica Home Delivery. Good afternoon, my name is Sandra, and today I'm doing this segment from the Ars Electronica Labs, more precisely from our so-called MaterialLab. What do we have here? In the panels behind me, you see a sort of collection, a selection of new materials, of revolutionary ideas we've collected from artists and also scientists all over the world. And a few of those I want to show you in this segment about material you can grow at home, almost. Or if you have a compost, if you experience with that, you can try some of this at home even if you want to. First of all, there's the question, why do we need new materials? Well, we live in a society that's used to throwing away a lot of things. Clothes, packaging, and so on. So we have this huge plastic problem, and I don't have to tell you anything about the problem with waste management on our planet. And sadly, we are not doing as well as we should be as an advanced civilization here in the 21st century. But some people thought maybe we could at least try to improve and change things. And they came up with some pretty interesting ideas, and three of them I want to show you next in our segment here. Why do we have this? Because we are the Museum of the Future, and one of our main ideas, of our main concepts, is to show the relationship between developing technology, society, and art. They often intertwine, and throughout the ages, they often influenced each other. And also here with this, we have a really cool example, what I'm holding here. Maybe some of you can guess already what that is. It looks a little leathery. It also feels like leather. But it's not the normal leather you would expect to find like on handbags or on your clothes, because this leather was not made using any animal waste, so to say, or skin from animals. No, this one was made from a completely biodegradable material you've maybe drunk before. It's kombucha leather. So kombucha, what is this? It's a new fancy drink, or not so new anymore. I didn't like the taste of it so much, but if you have other uses for it, why not go for it? So this is something called kombucha leather. And this was created by an art student called Miriam Eichinger from the Linz University of Art, from the department Art and Technology. As I said before, those two often go hand in hand. So what did you do? She took yeast from the kombucha fermenting process and let it out to dry, to combine. And also then it developed this sort of leathery surface you see here. But in the beginning it was still very almost liquid. It was 90% water. And after some weeks of drying and further fermenting, she was able to develop this leather-like material that can be used to produce, as I said before, alternative handbags or maybe also clothes. It smells a little interesting, especially when it's not that old, but otherwise it's a good replacement for traditional leather. Just as one idea what we can do. But there is much more, not just when it comes to clothes. We could also talk about construction. Construction materials are not that expensive anymore. We can build houses quite easily. But what happens when those materials get old that are used in traditional construction? Or what if we have to renovate or take down the house completely? Often there are many problems with the materials used to insulate and to build the house. And this was exactly what the company Mogu had in mind when they came up with their product line, Mogu Home. And what I want to show you first is this. It's a similar concept than the kombucha, but with a different plant material as a basis. So what we have here is so-called mycelium, mushroom mycelium. So maybe some of you know what this is already. When I say mushroom, you might think about the fruit body that you can eat, that you can pluck from the forest ground, but the mycelium is actually the root. So what you don't see, what's going on underground, the most important part of the mushroom is used here. And as a basis, the mycelium is fastened onto sawdust, for example, or plant waste to have a basis to grow on. And it doesn't need anything else. It's just growing naturally over a few weeks. You know, mushrooms can crop up almost anywhere. They just need some solid ground to grow on, the sawdust in this case, and also some liquid to sustain themselves, and then they will just grow by themselves. And after you deliquify the mass, the mycelium, you can compress it into almost any form. Like solid tiles, for example, you can use them to insulate your houses, or you can even have decorative tiles. They make the most amazing designs if you look on their homepage. And also sound absorption tiles are part of their product line. So if you want to not only insulate your house well with natural resources, but also have a nice room atmosphere with good sounds, then you could also contact Mogu. And as I talked about insulation, I want to show you this second piece here, because this looks much different than the tile I just showed you. It's also much, much softer, and it's used in between walls to insulate it better than any plastic or wooden material can today, and it's naturally grown. It's also completely decomposable, and it feels like, almost like something you could eat, but I would not recommend that. But for insulating your houses, it's the perfect material, the perfect alternative. Yeah, and one last project I want to show you, which was also partly designed by Mogu, but in this case they teamed up with another Italian company, both are from Italy, the so-called Codeit company. Codeit means Computational Design Italy, and that sounds very complicated. What do they do? Well, their task mainly focuses on 3D printing. And the team up with Mogu was an interesting idea, to say the least, because we know 3D printing is universally accessible almost nowadays, and you can print stuff at home, what you need. Imagine printing your own walls, for example. So they designed special printers, not with the normal material you would use at home to print like plastic idols or whatever material you have at home. They again used the mycelium combined with sawdust in their printers. For this, they used robotic arms as the 3D printer basis and put a nozzle on them to actually be able to print shapes like this one. So what does it do? What you see here is basically the line-by-line print, this special Mogu printer designed. And if I turn it around, you can actually see the sawdust I was talking about and the mycelium. And when it's printed, it's not finished. That's the difference between normal 3D printing and this technique, because it's still growing after the printing process is completed. And this piece does not look remarkable on its own, but imagine hundreds of them interlinking with each other. And they form a basis for a wall, for example, and you don't need any screws or any sticking material to put them together. They will just grow into each other naturally and form a very solid basis to build on. And again, without any waste to speak of, and not any plastic will be necessary to build or maintain it, and you can also decompose it easily. So this is the pretty cool concept here. If you have like a compost at home and you want to have a kombucha tea and don't want to throw away all the waste that's generated by it, even though it is biodegradable, why not try your own process of growing either leather or some mycelium, and maybe even contact Mogu. They are always looking for new ideas if you want to be creative and find new ways to implement this, not just in the construction or clothing or building industry. So those are the materials of tomorrow. 3D printing is our future. I'm pretty convinced of that. In this case, it's even called 4D printing sometimes, because it's the normal 3D printing process plus the factor of time, because it needs some time to grow, but otherwise no extra energy or material is needed. Yeah, so that's it so far for this segment of future materials. There will be more, especially with regard to clothing. So new types of clothing material will be introduced. And the next segment on today's plan will be again from deep space. Thank you very much and have a nice afternoon. Goodbye.